Oh god, here we go. I've been a Kirby fan for a very long time now, and I've recently gotten back into the series after like a year break from being invested in it once I finished Forgotten Land. So today, I attempt to turn that fixation into content through attempting to explain the lore of this series. All of it. At once. Or at least the main story of it. Or at least what can be presumed to be the main story. If you don't feel like listening to a lore summary with the equivalent level of clarity and pacing to a homeless man ranting about vaccines, the door is right there. I will point out, there are a few theories and general headcanons included in this summary, but I'll try to point out when I'm doing that and taking an extra leap that the games don't really tell you. But without further ado, we have a lot of ground to cover. Oh, and spoilers for every Kirby game? Ish. So the Kirby lore starts somewhere you wouldn't really expect it to. Earth, or at least an Earth analog. It's presumed that this Earth is in a different dimension from the one Kirby mostly takes place in, but we honestly don't know that much. So we can presume that due to the nature of the fact that this is literally Earth with monkeys and lions and all the Earth shit one can come to expect, that the people inhabiting this world were just that. People. Humans. So I'm going to run with that because it makes the entire thing more entertaining to think about. So one day, humanity, on Earth, was attacked by an interstellar entity known as Fecto-Elphalus. This creature was basically a whole-ass demigod, and had the power of interplanetary teleportation through the usage of these little star portals. Keep that in mind because they show up a lot. In a surprising twist of fate, humanity wasn't actually wiped out by this invader like you would expect. They actually beat the shit out of Fecto-Elphalus and locked it in a place called Lab Discovera, where they were able to synthesize and mass-produce its interplanetary teleportation power. Then, every single fucking human just left using that same power to a place called the Land of Dreams. Now, when I first played through Forgotten Land, I kind of thought that this was specifically referring to, like, Planet Popstar, and that the humans turned into Waddle Dees or some fucked up shit, but no, I have a better theory. The Land of Dreams is just the dimension that the Kirby series takes place in, and the humans became a race known as the Ancients. The Ancients can be seen more or less everywhere in the series. They made basically every single important relic, like the Lore Star Cutter, the Master Crown, the Dimensional Mirror, and the Galactic Novas. The most important and notable thing about their creations is that almost every single one of them has the same power as Fecto-Elphalus, interplanetary or even interdimensional teleportation through mostly star-shaped portals. But the Ancients weren't really having the time of their lives out there, as there was a threat. So basically, while the Ancients were exploring another dimension while making all their interdimensional teleportation artifacts, they found a deity that was a universal, omniscient consciousness, or whatever the fuck, that constantly existed all the time and was consistently being reincarnated. This being's name was known as Void, and its first manifestation, we think, was in the form of Void Termina, a world-destroying entity which fucked shit up until it was sealed in the Jamba Heart for a while, but that was just Void Termina, and not actually Void. So actual Void, like the consciousness, kept being reincarnated, but the initial form of Void Termina that destroyed a lot of ancient shit, that's still sealed in the Jamba Heart, which made one guy called Highness really angry, and then out of fear, all the Ancients just banished the weird guy to the corner of the universe, and he just sat there in his cut corner for quite a lot of time. And then we get to the part of the timeline where we don't actually know what happened. All the Ancients just kinda left. Maybe they moved on to another place. Maybe they all got fucking murked by a certain incarnation of Void. I'm leaning towards the latter because it's badass, but we don't actually know. What we do know is that they left behind a boatload of all sorts of different artifacts that will absolutely fuck with Kirby's nap time. Speaking of Kirby, where is that precocious little scamp? What's his deal? Well, we'll get to what his deal is in like 2/3 of the video. First, we gotta talk about where he lives. Planet Popstar, a geographically confusing planet that houses quite a lot of adorable little creatures, which are all ruled by their self-appointed tyrannical leader, King Dedede. His deal is that he's very hungry for both power and food, but mainly food right now because he steals all of it. Kirby walks to his house and kicks him real hard in the butt, forming a long-standing rivalry. The next game is Kirby's Adventure, where we see Nightmare, who feels like he'd be more important, but he's not. He, never shows up again. His name is literally Nightmare, like Nightmare in Dreamland. That's the name of a game. It's like a whole thing. It's Nightmare's the opposite. Why is he so not important? Anyway, in the next game, DDD's at it again, this time stealing all the keys to the rainbow bridges, or whatever the fuck. When Kirby shows up at his house again to show him what's for, it's revealed that he's actually controlled by an interstellar parasite known as dark matter, which has been puppeting him and rips open his chest to fight Kirby. It then escapes, and Kirby does what Kirby does, killing the swordsman. I'm still mad that dark matter swordsman, never shows up again. He's such a cool design. Right, so with DDD successfully exercised and dark matter destroyed, surely Dreamland is now at peace. Well, no, we have Superstar next. In Superstar, we are introduced to Marx, not Karl Marx, this fuckwad right here. His goal is to get Kirby to find the Galactic Nova, an ancient relic. Novas are literal clockwork stars designed to grant wishes to those that find them. Marx wishes for control over Popstar and then gets whooped by Kirby into the Galactic Nova, which then explodes, leading to our next game. Oh boy, it's Dark Matter time again. Dreamland 3. Dark Matter now forms a giant fuck-off sun with a blood-red eye, which is actually the leader of Dark Matter, a reincarnation of Void named Zero. Zero is kinda fucked, but everybody loves him because he's really edgy and it's great. He bleeds at you to attack, and all of his themes go really hard. Anyway, Kirby gets the particular love-based MacGuffin of this game and hits Zero with it real hard, and then he explodes into a bunch of blood, quite literally. What the hell? Yeah, but anyway, fucking Zero's gone. He's surely not gonna come back. Okay, he comes back in the next game. In Kirby and the Crystal Shards, we learn that Zero has come back in the form of Zero-2. Not her, this. Dark Matter is now a bigger threat than ever before, so Kirby and this weird bunch of Toho fairies need to explore the solar system to deal with it, including a not-so-subtle, literal frozen Earth. Look at this texture. What the hell is Shiver Star, man? I don't know if this is canon, that it's Earth, but what? Anyways, when you finally reach the end of the game, the boss is this strange mimicry of Kirby's powers in the form of miracle matter. Weird. What's weirder is that Zero-2 is just a very odd design. It's a fallen angel with a literal halo, but also a giant band-aid on its head and a cactus up its ass. You have to shoot glass into its giant bleeding eyeball in order to kill it, and when you do, dark matter is finally properly banished. Weird as hell, but hey, Zero-2 fucking goes hard, so who cares if he... I still don't get the cactus. Why does he have a cactus? Anyway, the next couple of games just kind of introduce villains like Drossia and Dark Void and Dark Mind. Just a bunch of weird bosses that generally don't make that much difference in the greater narrative, but they all kind of look the same. They end up as giant eyes or something similar and all have some sort of connection to dark matter. Odd, but hey, let's relax. Next up is Superstar Ultra, a mostly remake except for Mass DDD and Mark Soul. Mark Soul isn't canon, I think, but starts an important trend. Mass DDD just ends the rivalry between Kirby and DDD, which more or less just means that whenever you fight DDD from here on out, it's because he's possessed by something or other. Oh fuck, to hear that on the horizon? It's another fucking banger of a game, Return to Dreamland, where we are introduced to Magolor. Magolor pilots the Lore Starcutter, an ancient relic of a ship that he needs to be fixed up so he can defeat the super evil tyrant known as Landia on another planet known as Halcondra. When you do that, it's revealed that Magolor is actually a little shit and Landia is not evil at all, and he just wanted power. I wonder why that's familiar. He takes the Master Crown from Landia once they've been defeated and vows to take over Popstar with the power it grants. The Master Crown not only grants him the power to interdimensionally teleport, but also amplifies the rest of his basic magic. Kirby finds him and fights him, where he then turns into a vaguely circular floating monster with a giant eyeball in the center of its face. In the recent remaster of this game, there's a whole second phase to this fight where Magolor loses control of his body, and the eyeball is all that's left, implying he's being controlled by some vague force within the crown. I wonder what that could be implying. In the very same remaster, we also learned that Magalore redeems himself, kills a giant tree, and then goes into a spin-off to sell microtransaction apples. This series is fucking weird. Next up, Triple Deluxe. This game sees Kirby square up against a bunch of invaders. They appear to be an insectoid race led by Queen Sectonia, a worryingly attractive bee or wasp lady that really likes a giant plant called the Dreamstalk. It's revealed that she got this ray after her boy toy Taranza gave her a gift in the form of the Dimensional Mirror, the same evil mirror in the game I barely mentioned earlier that held Dark Mind. This turned her from a presumably normal bug person into the bad bitch that she is now, and led her to turn into a full-on evil tyrannical queen. Sectonia ends this game by becoming one with the Dreamstalk and fighting you as a giant flower in the background. If you go to the true arena and try this fight there, you'll realize that she turns into a boss known as Sectonia's Soul, and gains the attacks of Mark's Soul and Adrasia's Soul, and this better not be a tradition, man. Anyway, Sectonia dies and everything goes back to normal until Robobot. The villains of Robobot are a bunch of capitalists. That's not even a joke. They're just a bunch of venture capitalists looking to mine Popstar for its resources. They pilot a giant spherical ship with an AI in it known as Stardream, which, in the end of the game, literally consumes the soul of the president of the company and decides to kill all living things. It's then revealed that the spherical ship that the company was piloting was actually the remains of a robotified galactic nova, which was originally used to wish the president's daughter back from the dead. In its fight, Stardream takes control of this nova and fights you with it, throwing pieces of the old Superstar Nova at you and counting down in the same way that the Superstar Nova did before showing a fatal error, suggesting that the wish that it had made failed, and that was why the company president was so fucking nuts, because his daughter was still, like, locked away in another dimension. That's the name of the dimension, by the way. It's not like another dimension named something. No, it's another dimension named another dimension. Anyway, if you go into the true arena and fight Stardream, you get to fight Stardream Soul OS, which is a rehash of the Heart of Nova fight, except you guessed it, in its final phase it uses the Mark's attacks against you. Okay, and now we finally get to the big cheese. Star Allies. So, Star Allies has that Void cult that I mentioned an entire video ago come back. The cult members include Highness and his 3 weed-smoking girlfriends. Highness's goal is to resurrect Void through the usage of the Jamba Heart, which was just split over Popstar, infecting all the happy-go-lucky creatures throughout the area with nothing but pure testosterone. Look what it did to poor fucking DDD. Oh my god. But let's cut to the chase. It's a whole game where you fight all the 3 weed-smoking girlfriends, and you get to Highness, who reveals that he kind of looks like Squidward, I think, and then he uses the drained bodies of the other 3 mage sisters, that's their actual name, and uses friend attacks against you, and then sacrifices all of them to the Jamba Heart, forming Void Termina. Void Termina takes the form of a giant world-destroying buff masked guy who has the power to summon the Master Crown, summon wings that are very similar to what 02 has, as well as infuse weapons with elements in the same way that Kirby can in this game. What gets even fuckier is that when you go inside and circumcise the core, it's revealed that the core is called Void Soul. Void Soul is a constantly morphing ball of energy with Kirby's face on it that changes forms between that, something looking similar to 02's face, and a form that is literally just dark matter. Oh yeah, and it also uses all the fucking attacks from the past Soul bosses, like all of them. It uses Drasia's Ball of Fire attack, Marx's Cutter attack, Miracle Matter's Needle attack, and even Dark Mind's Mirror attacks. Even weirder, this boss not only wears the face of Kirby, but its theme is a remix of Green Greens, which has punctuated every single first area since Dreamland 1. But it gets weirder. In the Soul Melter difficulty of the arena, introduced in the DLC, this boss takes on the colors of 02. Its boss intro screen has the same area background where you fight Zero in Dreamland 3, and it dies smiling and takes damage from Kirby's heart attacks. And also its theme just plays chiptune Green Greens. What the fuck? Well, this boss is actually a pretty solid answer for the eternal question of what Kirby is. Kirby's an eldritch deity, like not even joking. He's a reincarnation of Void born from good emotions. This Void is one that is unfinished, not fully formed yet, so it takes on all of its past incarnations at the same time. This is also why every other incarnation of Void or dark matter infused entity or anything relating to that all do the same thing at the end. It's the core Void attacks. One can guess. This is a headcanon, but like it makes sense, and I'm always right. But at the end of the day, what this boss shows us is not only an origin of Kirby, but also an origin of basically every single final boss of a Kirby game that we've seen. Every single bit of evil, all the dark matter that seeps through every ancient artifact, and all the soul bosses are all an extension of Void. This series is a kid's game, by the way, where you play as a cute pink blob that travels through a place called Dreamland with all your friends. So anyway, after that borderline life changer, we get to the second most recent release, and the most recent event in the timeline, Forgotten Land. Forgotten Land takes place as Kirby is transported to another world, specifically Earth. This version of Earth is the same one that Fecto-Elfilis showed up on, and the same one that the ancients presumably left. In their absence, Fecto-Elfilis split into two. Elfilin, this cute son of a bitch right here, and Fecto-Forgo, this giant test tube slime fetus. Fecto-Forgo is all the evil, and Elfilin is all the good. Fecto-Forgo wants Elfilin back so it can be whole again. That's the plot. In order to complete this goal, Fecto-Forgo has been rapidly fucking with all the animals, using its psychic powers to evolve them and grant them human-like intelligence. Hence, the Beast Pack, the main, or minor villains of this game, a bunch of furry bait designs that serve the slumbering demigod. When you actually reach Fecto-Forgo, it uses its powers to consume everything, turning into a Resident Evil boss that then consumes Elfilin as well. With its full power attained, this restored demigod gets killed by a semi-truck. But hey, that's not the end. If you go into the true arena, this boss is replaced by Chaos Elfilis, a version of the boss that has a very familiar color scheme. Oh yeah, no, it also has a new phase as well. After you deplete its health bar, it turns into a giant floating sphere that uses Marx's cutter attack and black hole attacks, as well as Dracia's flaming ball attack and sludge rain attack. Okay, this is mostly just more evidence for Elfilis being a parallel version of Void, which, again, might not be true. We don't know if this is a parallel universe or not. It could just be that this is the same dimension as Popstar, and Elfilis is just another reincarnation of Void, which would be kind of odd, but, I mean, I guess it would make sense. Anyway, that more or less brings us up to speed, but I still want to talk about some of the other weird things in this franchise because I have like a minute of time to do so. There's a side boss that doesn't really matter all that much besides Meta Knight, who I haven't mentioned once in this script. That's because he really doesn't matter all that much. Galactonite is his boss's name, and he shows up occasionally to fight and be a kind of hard boss in the true arena. But what's really fucking odd is that in Star Allies, he is killed by a butterfly. The same butterfly that has shown up in almost every single Kirby intro. He just shows up and he banishes him and then eats him and turns into Morphonite. Now Morphonite reappears in Forgotten Land, where he also eats Fecto-Forgo for the most part. What? Sorry. There's also a bunch of other small things that I didn't really mention, like the Painter Sisters, or the Mirror World, or the fact that Magolor Soul Fight just has fucking Void in the middle. Okay, all that is cool, but doesn't really matter in the long run, and I still want to keep this summary short. So, thank you all for listening to me rant about Kirby for like a fat minute. If you want me to make more videos on things like Stardream and Haltman with preferably some more structure or like a deep dive, just any other Kirby content, just yell at me in the comments. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Also, Patreon, Papa needs a new pair of pants.